Welcome to the GameChanger 00100 show. I'm your host, GameChanger, and today we are going to review the book Submission is Not...
One of the great challenges in this world is
My mistake. Okay. Once again, welcome to the GameChanger 00100 show. I'm your host, GameChanger. And today we are going to review the book Submission is Not the Enemy. Is a key factor to a healthy relationship. And I think that that's the goal of this space, even though there's a lot of people enraged, particularly men and women, or I guess men and women that are enraged with each other because of the relationship dynamics. Now, I don't know if she's going to show or not, or she's running a little late. Maybe she's getting her husband a sandwich. Who knows? But I hope that she shows up. But if not, the show must go on regardless. So let's see. dnieka Marie is a young Black female author who preaches the importance of submission. Now, when we talk about a lot of the problems that we have in the Black community, believe it or not, it stems from young, intelligent Black female authors. For example, we have Terry McMillan, we had Zora Neale Hurston, Bell Hooks, Maya Angelou, people like that. Alice Walker is one of the key factors who make movies like The Color Purple, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, all of the imagery that shows traditional relationships. Basically what they did was they took the traditional family model, which consisted of a dominant man and a submissive woman, and bastardized it. They demonized it, rather. They showed depictions of this is what could happen to you. In cases like Waiting to Exhale, they showed, you know, the man just randomly leaving his wife of 11 years for a white woman. And in the case of Mr., he abused his authority of the time over his, you know, quote unquote submissive wife, even though she was kind of forced into that position, not chose it willingly. So they demonize, the imagery. They demonize what submission can lead to in an attempt to discourage the action. Now, this is not by any means by accident. They didn't write these books and then years later say, oh, you know something? I can't believe I did this to a generation of young, women and girls. And of course, you know, subsequently the men. They knew exactly what they were doing and they wanted to do it. Now, what did they have to gain from this other than money? Well, they gained social leverage for themselves. Basically, the women who were reading it thought that they were gaining the same. They thought that they were gaining relationship security by creating the single market as hostile for men. Creating a scarcity of submission means that you can offer it later to a man to men in general at a premium. So they knew what they were doing, and I think many of them, Alice Walker in particular, is happy with her results. Now, what dnieka is doing, in my opinion, and if she were here, and I wish she was, she can tell me if it's true, is attempting to reverse that. Now, the difference between dnieka and these women is that she's married. She was married at the time of authoring this book, and she is currently married. So she doesn't have a personal stake in lying to women. She doesn't have a need to increase her own sexual marketplace value as a result. Or, you know, that stems from misleading women who is seen as competition. All right, so let's get started with the review. All right, let me just bring up my notes. Give me a second. Okay, so the book isn't really divided into numbered chapters. At first, I was against this, but then as I read the book, I kind of understand where she was going with this. Basically, she didn't want to say that one chapter was more important than the other or the previous. She just didn't want to do that. I'm guessing that that's what was on her mind. So they're not numbered. Of course, they are ordered, and I think it's very well written this way. All right, so the first one is women issue regarding submission. Okay, now in there she says submissive women are looked at as desperate, insecure, or unaware of her value. Now, I want to talk about that for a second. To most men, I shouldn't say most men, depending on how you define men, men who are seeking long-term stability and happiness and tranquility, and they're in tune with their own masculinity, will understand that a woman's value is in her submission, period. So when women are encouraged or discouraged from submission and saying that they are seen as desperate, insecure, or unaware of their value, the unaware of their value part comes as a bit of a head scratcher. Because her value is her submission. Now, absent that, she's just, as some would say, a hole. She's just a place to stick your phallus. And when they say that a woman who is submissive is unaware of her value, I think that what is meant here is that she is unaware of her sexual value or the value of her whole. For example, the movie Poetic Justice with Janet Jackson and Tupac Shakur, rest in peace. Janet Jackson, then a young woman, was interested in Tupac, and she was getting her seduction techniques from an older woman. This older woman said to her, and I quote, "You do not know your pussy from a hole in the wall." Basically meaning that she didn't know how to leverage her sexuality in order to seduce a man. Now, though this is a powerful means to seduce a man short term, it has no stability in the relationship. And that's mentioned in the book as well. Not in those terms, but it is touched upon in the book. All right, next, let's see. A woman being submissive to a man shows that she understands his needs, love him, and most importantly, trust him to lead. Now, the trust him to lead portion is the imagery that has been torn down from the Black man, Black woman dynamic. And that's through other young, intelligent authors like dnieka, but with a different agenda. They want to make sure that these young ladies do not trust their mate to lead, and therefore put them in I'll cover that later because she talks about that later in the book. All right. Also in this chapter, she mentioned, let's see, how dysfunctional our relationships would be if we met any suggestion with resistance and force. Now that's key. That is very much key because that is where we're at today. You see, what I notice in many Black man, Black woman relationships is that any suggestion, anything. Oh, here she is right now.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. I'm sorry I'm late. I just now got your...
You're on mute.
Oh. Can you hear me?
No.
Can you hear me?
Testing. This is strange. So, chat room, can you hear her? Okay, so They say they can hear you. For whatever reason, I can't hear you. Let me see what's going on my end.
Okay.
Okay, you should be fine now. Can you say something, please?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you now. I apologize. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, so I was going over your book, but before I do that, let me just tell you a little bit about myself, okay?
Okay.
And we share a lot of the same views. My channel is dedicated to getting Black relationships together under male dominance and female submission, because I see that that is the only way any relationship would work. And that is the major wedge between Black men and Black women of today. Growing up, I seen my father go through 2 divorces, who took a more modern approach, 50-50 equality type, equal leadership role, because he thought that this was the modern thing to do. My father is a baby boomer. Where at the same time, I seen my grandparents who took a more traditional approach to relationship. Some modern people will say old-fashioned or outdated approach. However, it worked. Their marriage literally went to death did them part. Rest in peace to my grandfather. My grandmother's still here. So I seen what worked and what didn't work, and also seen the resulting children of it. So, and this is something that I was that I was raised by and ingrained with all my life. So it's very obvious what marriage model works and which one doesn't. Now, even though it's not effective, I did notice that it is prevalent in the Black community, and we're now just kind of walking around in confusion. And as such, we have reduced our counterpart to sexual functions. Now, I think that this is largely a result of, and this is through my research, young, intelligent female authors like yourself, however, with a different agenda. Alice Walker, Terry McMillan, well, the once young, Zora Neale Hurston, people like that. And as a result, Black relationships are what they are today. And as you know, it's not good. And that's something that we both are here to rectify. So just
Absolutely.
Quick overview of myself. So I outlined your book. I've read it, outlined it, and then I read it again so I can be prepared for this situation. So, so I'll restart from the beginning. I noticed that you don't really have numbered chapters, and I think that your reason for that is because you don't want to prioritize. Like, every chapter seemed to be equally important from what I've read. And even if you were to switch the orders around, the message would still be caught. They can work independently, is what I mean. Right. And that's what I noticed. So, my compliments to you on that. That's something that's difficult to master. All right. So your first chapter, women issue regarding submission. Now, you talk about how by their peers, what I call the sisterhood of failure, because of their peers, women who are submissive are seen as desperate, insecure, or unaware of her value. Now, I was saying earlier that a woman's value is her submission.
Oh.
Therefore, at least to a man who's looking to build anything or move forward in life, you can't do that with contention. So a woman's value is her submission. Now, I have to say, if these women are saying that a submissive woman is unaware of her value, then that means that they think a woman's value is something else.
Right.
Now, without submission, a woman's only remaining value would be that she is a female and she can provide sexual release. So are you saying that these women who discourage submissive women or discourage women from being submissive are saying that a submissive woman is unaware of the value of her sexual function?
That, and I'm also saying that those women that view submission as this degrading term, shout out to the King Afi. I'm going to be doing an interview with him next Tuesday. Okay. But I'm saying that they define their power not only between their legs, but also in their money, what they can provide as far as the monetary value. Basically, those types of women have taking the power of a man, and they want to put themselves and view themselves through that same lens. So anything that is not equivalent to that of a man in power, they view as weak, they view as inferior. So essentially, what they're doing is saying, hey, sis, you're more powerful than you just catering to a man and being his helpmeet. That's weak. That's inferior. So what they've done is they've taken that and they redefined it and reconstructed it to be a man, essentially. Okay. So they want women to essentially be in that place of a man, and that's what they're defining their power based off of. On top of sex, too. We can throw that in there as well. A lot of women feel like because they have a vagina that automatically deems them to be worthy and all of this. And again, the vagina is powerful, so is the penis now. But let's not get it twisted. Mm-hmm. They're both equally valued, but a lot of women that have that mindset, it is that of forget all of that. That's old school. We're not living in that day and age anymore. We have to redefine our power in another light, which is that of a man's power, his money, his influence, what he's able to bring to the relationship or to the table financially, degrees, jobs, careers, that. And that's what they're defining their power based off of. But like you said, I would go back and agree and say it's so much power in submission.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the power in submission is that it's something that a man can't really offer himself, and generally don't. Like the qualities that you mentioned would make a competent husband. However, a man with money and degrees, education and things like that have less of a need for it. Like, what need do a man who makes $300K have for a woman who makes $100K? Like, he doesn't really, So, yeah, I mean, they're kind of selling themselves short with that thinking. I didn't even think of that aspect because I don't see value in those things. I really in the things that you mentioned. So, from a man's point of view, I like, well, what does she offer if she's not offering submission? The only thing and I really thought that the only thing that was left was sex, but you took us deeper into the mindset that they think that her income is a woman's income is not offered to me. You talk about 50-50 later in the book, and I'll cover that too. But it's not really a value to me. So women who lead with that as seduction, you're barking up the wrong bush. Now there are men. Well, there are men who value such things, but they're coming from a place of need. They're,
right.
Yeah. Okay. So a woman being submissive to a man shows that she understands his needs, love him, and most importantly, trust him. Now I'm paraphrasing you here. Mm-hmm. I want to cover the trust factor for a moment. I think because keep in mind, like myself, we come from a link that was broken, meaning that my grandparents did it the traditional way. My parents didn't. Mm-hmm. So, my parents divorced when I was 3. So the link has been broken. So for whatever reason, my mother, seeing her mother in a submissive position and happily married for decades, also on that side of the family till death did them part. So they seen this dynamic and they revolted against it for whatever reason. Now, my suspicion is that through a series of books, movies, television shows or things like that, they were taught to not trust the man as the lead, as you put it here. And a woman being submissive to a man shows that she understands his needs, love him, and most importantly, trust him to lead. No one trusts the image of Mr. from The Color Purple to lead. No one trusts the image of whoever that brother was that left Angela Bassett on Waiting to Exhale to lead, so on and so forth. And all of the books, Their Eyes Were Watching God, Logan Killicks. These are men that you should not trust to lead. And these are common predictions of Black men by Black female authors like yourself with completely different agendas. They wanted to break up the family structure while you want to rebuild it. So what are your thoughts on that? Am I off base in my assertion?
No, a lot of us don't trust the man to lead. A lot of us do want to break free from the traditional ways because media or society, whatever you have, they have romanticized the idea that women being in power outside of a relationship or taking control in such a manner makes them to be these superior beings. And so therefore I don't need a man, and I really don't need to trust a man. All I need to do is trust myself to guide and lead myself. So they don't want to do things the way that your grandmother did. You know, I don't want to have a man there and have him doing that and doing this for me. I want to do stuff a different way. And I'm going to essentially try to take my power back and my voice and my identity back as far as being a woman outside of a relationship, outside of a man. So, yeah, you know, they, like I said, they romanticize it to make it seem that women can be independent. We can be superwoman. We don't need to listen. We don't need to follow. We don't need to submit. We can be our own trailblazers. And that has stripped apart our family structures. And then we're trying to piece it back together, but we're not able to fully do that to the extent or in the capacity that we need to do it, because we still have this idea that being submissive is weak. Following the lead of a man is weak. So even if we do want to be in these solid relationships and build with men, not only do we not trust them because our minds have been warped, but we feel like I can't let go of my position of being in that quote unquote superior spot. So that's where you have the battle of the sexes, the clashes going on, the conflicts, because women, we have been warped into believing that our power is outside of our power.
Of submission.
I'm sorry.
Your power is in dominance and not submission.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's what we have done.
And as a result, you mentioned later in the chapter how dysfunctional relationships would be if we met any suggestion with resistance and force. Well, we've seen the dysfunction, absolutely. You know, me being a child of the 80s from Oakland, I've seen a functioning Black community, and I've seen the results. And shout out to Alfie Kingdom, who's also from the town. Shout out to him, salute to him. So, you know, I've seen firsthand the dysfunction that it bred. You know, I've seen a community collapse, a beautiful community collapse. Some of you younger people probably didn't even see it in its heyday, which is unfortunate. Okay. And you said something later in this chapter that I'm going to touch on later. You said a woman's submission activates a man's masculinity. Now, I'm paraphrasing. You guys got to read the book. I'm just kind of like giving a summation. A woman's submission activates a man's masculinity. And I'm definitely going to talk about that later, because it's covered later in a different way, and I want to retouch on that. Now, the next chapter, and I seen you on your show saying that dnieka Marie Dope Discussions, check her out if you haven't already, subscribe. You said, what type of man should a woman submit to? Mm-hmm. Or excuse me, what type of man should be submitted to, rather? And that's the second chapter. And you say the enemy, let's see, the enemy is the quality of men that you're submitting to. Now, I agree with that completely. A lot of women believe that men are the enemy themselves. And if you look at media, that's what Black relationships are. You know, I gave the example of Color Purple and things like that. And there's so many others. It's far too many to count. However, you know, Baby Boy or whatever, anything that begins with the word Medea, you know, the men themselves are the enemy. However, you're saying that the selection process is.
Exactly.
Okay. I definitely agree with that. And actually, I didn't really have any problems with this chapter. Let's see. You also say if a man doesn't have these qualities, and I'm not going to list the qualities. Buy the book if you want to list a list of the qualities. They're on Amazon, or the book is on Amazon. It's called "Submission is Not the Enemy." But if a man does not possess the listed qualities of leadership that you presented, then he does not deserve submission. Now, I want to take that portion back. I want to take that portion back to where you said in the previous chapter, submission activates a man's masculinity. Mm-hmm. So a man who doesn't possess these qualities meets a woman who is looking to activate these qualities in a man. I think that that's also a failing. And I want to ask you to expand on that. You see where I'm going, right? Because you have a list of qualities that a man may or may not possess. And you're saying that a woman should not mess with a man unless he has these qualities, but some men do not have these qualities until a submissive woman activates them into them.
Okay.
Okay.
I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, it's a chicken and egg thing. Which comes first, the submission or the masculinity, the femininity or the masculinity?
Well, let me expound upon that.
Okay.
In a general sense, I do feel as though women should be in their femininity. They should be respectful towards men, common courtesy. They should be in a more submissive role towards a man, regardless of if she's in a relationship with him or not, right?
Right.
Like me and you, for instance. I am being respectful towards you. I'm allowing you as the man to lead, take control, all of that. I'm giving you that common courtesy because that's me being in my femininity naturally. My issue comes into place is when we are giving these submissive qualities to men after they have showcased to us that they are not indeed worthy. For instance, I'm going to, off the bat, give you the common courtesy of being in that leadership role. I'm going to allow you to take the reins. I'm going to allow you to lead and do all these great things, right? But let's say I came on here and you started being very disrespectful towards me. You started badgering me. You started being, just all this negative energy. If I then continued on giving you submissive qualities and giving you that respect and holding you in this high regard instead of gathering myself and just leaving the situation, that's when it's an issue. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. In fact, it also just matches completely many conversations. Because I had this channel for about a year now. Many conversations I've had. I mean, as an advocate of submissive women relationships and male dominant relationships, of course, I get a lot of pushback from both sides. A lot of men are comfortable in relationships that doesn't require much traditional masculinity of them. And a lot of women are comfortable with the security that they believe that they have from being in a dominant position in a relationship. So I get pushback from both sides. One of the main pushbacks that I get is from single women who make the argument, should I just submit to any man? And my counter to that argument is that there's different types of submissions. There's submission that you would give to your mate, of course, your lover and things like that. But then there's also a general behavior that you have towards men that at least he can recognize that you are a submissive woman, even though you're not his submissive woman. Right.
And once he does not display that he's worthy of that, you don't start being disrespectful. You don't try to overpower him. You don't try to dominate him. You still remain in your femininity. You just walk away and you take that elsewhere.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think that more women doing this, men will eventually get the message. Men, of course, are very attuned to how women treat them. Okay, so let's see. All right, so yeah, that covers that chapter. I don't know why people would think that one was problematic. I mean, I know it holds men to a standard, but I don't really see a problem with that. Okay, so the next one, why are we having problems with submission? Now, and you say many Black women have not been exposed to healthy relationships. So I would say that the previous generation, the boomers, as I call it, was the generation of a rebellion against the traditional family structure. Feminism was on the rise, and player culture started to take off. Papa really became a Rolling Stone. So on both sides, the family structure was replaced with free love, man, or sexual liberation, whatever you want to call it. Families, turned into just a bunch of people looking to get a piece of money or sex or whatever. That was that generation. Now we're about 2 or 3 generations, depending on your age, we're about 2 or 3 generations into it, which means that a lot of people, especially the younger people, not only never seen a healthy relationship from their parents, as I haven't, they also never seen one from their grandparents, which is a larger concern. So what you say here is very poignant, that many Black women have never been exposed to a healthy relationship. Now, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, it's hard for you to try to emulate something or take the best parts of something and apply it to self when you've never had an example of it. You've never been exposed to it. So when you are growing up in these conditions where maybe the father is absent or the father is present, but he's in a lower position, he's being walked all over, he's being disrespected by the woman rather, and just mistreated, that can warp a young woman's mind into believing that no man is worthy of being submitted to, or the men that you choose to be in a relationship with, they're supposed to be submitting towards you. So either way, it's kind of this negative kind of outlook and perspective that a lot of young women are internalizing, and they're growing up and displaying those same toxic characteristics that they were exposed to growing up. Because like you said, or like I said in the book, we haven't had a positive example or a healthy example. So then we grow up thinking that that's okay. And so when you do that, it does nothing but have a domino effect. And then we have children and we bring them up in the same types of conditions, and the cycles repeat.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you say, you made another, and these are just the highlights, another statement that women feel the need to lead as a result of male leadership, or lack of male leadership. I think I just misquoted or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Yeah. And I agree with that. And then you also talk about the men's perception. Now, I have a little bit of pushback on this. Okay. It says the young men see the dysfunction and become dysfunctional. Now, that's a very true statement, but I don't think that it's a monkey see, monkey do situation.
Okay.
I think that the young men are seeing that the women are attracted to dysfunction and become dysfunctional themselves. You see, as I mentioned before, when you strip away a woman's submissive nature, then what's left is her sexual function. Of course, there's monetary one that you brought up, but generally speaking, that's what's left. I think a lot of men have taken a position that, okay, she's not submissive, but at least she has a sexual function, and at least she has that. And if it takes dysfunction to access that, then I will be dysfunctional, meaning that they see a certain reward with dysfunctional behavior versus functional ones. Not that they, just seen dysfunction and say, I'm going to be dysfunctional. And also, there was a generation of stepdads who actually seen it as an opportunity. So for what I've seen, the previous generation generated two types of men. One who wanted to sexually capitalize off of the woman's renewed desire for dysfunction, and another who seen it as an opportunity. Like, these women are great. Look at my mother, so these guys are just jerks, and I'm going to be the stepfather to their kids because they're overlooking a good thing. Mm-hmm. I seen those as being a thing. Now, my answer to that is scrolling at the bottom. If you ain't fucking pick-me's, you ain't fucking shit. And it's just as it sounds. If a woman is not submissive, then you're not doing anything. You're just wasting your time. I mean, you might as well masturbate. It's not, you're not doing anything. It doesn't even count. And I don't consider them women. You're just, you're just degrading yourself and others like you. What are your thoughts? I'm talking too much.
No, you're not. That's a very interesting perspective, one that I have not taken heed to, as far as men not just doing it because of maybe what they were exposed to, but them seeing that those are the types of behaviors that women are gravitating towards. So that was an interesting perspective for you to have upon that. And I can agree with that too. Mm-hmm. And that's why I have these nice guys videos, and I talk about being a nice guy, and I talk about how you should always remain a nice guy regardless. You just need to set boundaries and expectations and things of that nature. But what's happening is these quote unquote nice guys are like, well, these women like dysfunction. These women like when you treat them disrespectfully. They like when you ignore them. They like all of this, toxic behavior. So why wouldn't I just adapt or adopt rather those same kind of traits that these quote unquote F boys have, or these toxic men have, these bad boys have, because that's what you guys seemingly like. So right. I can also agree with that. And again, that goes back to us women taking accountability and saying, okay, this is not working. I'm not going to entertain it anymore, so that we can change that perspective that a lot of wholesome, healthy men have. Once we start choosing you guys first, not when we're in shambles, not when we have all of these different babies and all of these bills and all of this debt and all of this dysfunction wrapped and tied to us. When we start choosing you guys first, then I feel like it can change the dynamic to where men will naturally want to fall in line and do what's right, because women are choosing better. They are choosing those good guys. They are choosing those nice guys, those healthy guys to be with. So again, that's a responsibility on women as well to set that standard,
Right. And I don't solely put that responsibility on women.
It takes two.
Yeah, it takes two. And men, and my response to that is, you should want to be yourself more than you want to be with her.
Right.
Like if you are what you are, I mean, everyone, who subscribed to me knows that I'm a nerd, and I have been my whole life. And,
there's nothing wrong with that. It's beautiful.
No, it's not. It's not. I never thought it was, but until I came to this space, I'm like, look, if a woman wants certain qualities or traits from a guy, then she should be with that guy. I'm not going to alter myself just to meet a woman's sexual needs. And
so it goes both ways. Women have to start choosing better, and men have to be solid on their square and comfortable with who they are regardless.
Exactly. It's difficult in our community because masculinity is defined by sexual conquest. So
right.
It does make things like that very difficult, but that's a different discussion. All right, let's see. Next chapter, men with the wrong idea about submission. Now, another one of my t-shirt phrases is get me a sandwich. And that's just a colloquialism. That's just a fancy way of saying that you should submit. I say that to women who are anti-submission, the ones who use pick me as a pejorative and things like that. I say that to them, get me a sandwich. And so as I read that chapter, I was like, wait, do I come off as the toxic men that you're talking about? And maybe I do. Now, to my defense, this is to counter extreme women. So, okay. As a nerd, a certain type of woman I attract a lot that I'm not particularly into. And these are the pick-me pretenders. The ones who fake the funk. You talk about this in the book. The ones who, who feign submission, but they're not actually submissive, but they assume that this is what I like. And they rightly assume that this is what I like. So they project the front. Right. Most guys, ladies, I hate to bust your bubble. We see it coming a mile away. If you ask us to go to church on the first date, it's like, what do you think of us? Like, you think just because we're not thugs or anything that we want to date you in church? Get out of here. It's not, you're not fooling anybody with your interview voice and your Valley Girl tone. We know you from Richmond. Anyway.
Golly.
But so I get these types. And what I notice is that they avoid extreme examples of it. They avoid extreme get me a sandwich type things. They even avoid the word submission, even though they will submit for a man that they're interested in, at least on a temporary basis. They're faking it, and they avoid like, oh no, but I'm not submitting. I'm just, I'm doing something like that. So I put it out there in extreme terms because it's like, okay, if they're willing to embrace it that way, then at least they're serious about it, and some of the apprehensions that you mentioned earlier in the book don't really exist. What is your take on it?
So are you saying that you are coming off to be some of those toxic traits that I mentioned?
On this channel, yes. On this channel. In my personal relationship, no. My girl doesn't know that GameChanger 00100 exists. So, and thank goodness. But on this channel, yes. And that's to counter the extreme pushback that I get. And also it comes from an understanding of knowing that the sisterhood does exist. And for the reasons that you mentioned in the first chapter, women are apprehensive about taking a submissive position because she has to turn her back on a lot of women who will call her pick me as a pejorative, or say that she's weak, or just a ton of other things that I'm sure that you've heard. Mm-hmm. It takes a strong-willed woman to turn away from that. And me, I come in an extreme just to test her will. Like, if she's willing to say, yes, I'm willing to do this, then that means that she has completely renounced the sisterhood,
Okay. So what you're essentially trying to test her gangster.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I can see that. So what you're essentially saying is, hey, I'm going to throw this out here and see how she responds to it. And if she responds accordingly, then I know she's a real one.
Exactly.
I personally, I don't mind making a sandwich. So, I mean, if that's what you want to do. So, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, a lot of women, they would have an issue with that. But that's because, again, they're not really understanding that it's coming from a lighthearted place, but at the same time, a place where it's like, look, a woman's role and position is to cater to her man, is to be the helpmate, is to have certain roles and duties attached to her that she has to uphold, and so a woman like me, I wouldn't get offended. I would laugh because again, I understand you're being facetious, you're, just
right.
silly, but serious at the same time. So I wouldn't take offense to that.
Okay.
Would I say that that's toxic? It kind of is though. Okay. Because what you don't want to do is, me personally, what you don't want to do from my personal stance and point of view is meet people with the same kind of negative energy. Like we're supposed to ultimately try to bridge the gaps. Mm-hmm. But if you are trying to trigger somebody and get a response and get them to, I guess, come along and see what your real stance is, I can't be mad at that. I mean, it may work. It may get her to be like, well, what the hell is he talking about? Go get a sandwich. And then you're able to bring her over and get a better understanding of where you're coming from with you being over the top or being extreme. So I see how it can work. But me personally, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't try to poke a lion to see how they react. Like, no, I'm just going to do myself. And if you like it, you like it. If you hate it, you hate it,
Okay.
But that's
I understand that. I know that YouTube is not a dating site. That's not that's not my pickup line or anything on any of the ladies here. No, it's just a counter argument to the overtly strong Black woman narrative and stuff like that. So I see what you're going, but I have a different mission here than I do in my personal life.
Okay.
Let's see. Men that think women are beneath them. That I definitely wouldn't say that at all. I know that those men exist, but that's and that's something that's thoroughly explored in the book. Let's see. A time and place when a man should submit. Now, after reading this portion, okay, so understand that, and this comes from dealing with women who have been brainwashed by this, strong Black woman trope, that this will be read as an opportunity for contention.
Okay.
This is given an inch, so to speak. And I know what you mean. Okay, so I'll give an example. Of a time to submit. A woman is to set a birthday party for the kids, and she comes in and says, I need you to get the rocks off the back lawn. I need you to pick the weeds, cut the lawn, and get the patio furniture out, and then I'll set up the decorations. Done. I want the kids to have a nice birthday party. These are the things that you require of me to do that I'm more suited to doing. And you are more suited for the planning, the social, you have connections with the other kids' mothers and things like that. And, you are more decorative than I am. you are more aware of these things, and you are responsible for setting up the party, and I will aid you in that regard. No contest at all. And I don't think any man should. And I don't think that any man should be considered less dominant for being in that position. So I understand exactly what you mean. That is exactly what you mean, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Something to that effect, along those lines. If she's more suited for that, then you allow her to go ahead and do that. You follow her lead in that area.
Exactly. So I'm all for that. I think that a lot of women who still want to hold on to as much of the dominant thing as possible see this as an area of opportunity of saying, I'm submissive, but I think that a man should submit some of the time. And then, that time just, it used to be 10% of the time. Then she just tries to maneuver it to 20 and then 30. And then, every time there's the contention that, who should lead. And, you see where I'm going with this?
I do.
That portion may be misread and problematic, even though I got it, but I have a different goal than a lot of these strong black women.
Yeah, I can understand and see where it could be problematic, because some women will say, well, I'm better suited to pay the bills. I'm better suited to lead the household. I'm better suited. So it can be turned on its head, but that's not what it's intended to do. It's just a matter of us understanding that when it comes to relationships, it's going to be an instance where your woman is going to be more suited to lead, and you're going to have to follow her. Now, I did go on to say that the man should be in the dominant leader role majority of the time, but it's going to be some instances where your woman is just naturally better suited, and it's going to be your duty and your obligation and your responsibility to let her go ahead and give those instructions, and you just, follow her and you assist her. So if a man can't understand that, I would say he's not even ready for a relationship right now. If a man was able to take that piece of the book, or a woman rather, take that piece of the book and say, well, I can do this then, and I can do that then, and they have found it to be problematic, I would say that speaks to a deeper issue within you, that you feel like your woman shouldn't take on certain roles and duties and obligations. Or if you're a woman and you feel like that passage of the book signifies that it's okay for you to walk all over a man, and it's okay for you to dominate a man, and he's bowed down and be submissive to you all the time. Again, that's a problem with you. So I'm glad that you have a more healthy approach to that, and you're able to understand that it's not meant to be this struggle of who is the leader and who's going to overpower, and I'll be damned if I let a woman lead me or whatever.
Right.
That's not what that is saying. What it's saying is it's going to always be a give and a take. It's always going to have balance in our relationships. We can't both all the time be aggressive towards one another. We're going to have to allow each other to lead when it best suits and best fits their role. Okay.
I agree completely. All right. So I'm going to speed through this. I know your time is valuable. So let's see. You also say time and place where men. Okay, so we covered that. Men and women should not be submissive or dominant at the same time.
Exactly.
Agree with that 100%. Let's see. Establishing roles in relationships. Neither a man or a woman should feel degraded. Absolutely. I mean, of course, and we're not going to go into like people with particular fetishes. Both.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like BDSM, people who get sexual arousal from degradation or humiliation. I'm saying like people have individual fetishes that I won't go into, but those are outliers. I'm saying those aside, in the day-to-day relationship, in a day-to-day healthy relationship, even though those are healthy, because they complement each other, but those are outliers. Don't look at it.
That ties back into it's a time and a place.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was just mentioning that they exist. And degradation is a part of that. But generally speaking, you should appreciate your mate. I think both parties want to be appreciated, though both parties expect to be appreciated for different things. Can we? Okay, great. Let's see, strong independent woman and 50-50 beta males. Now, even though I'm trying to do speed round here, that's something that I definitely need to touch on because in the Black community, both parties are shamed for both. So quick story, everybody who subscribes to my channel know this story. So on this channel, I was telling everyone how about maybe 5 years ago, I was in the Dominican Republic, and there was a lady. She was just a friend. I mean, there were benefits involved, but she was a friend that I seen on vacation. She showed me around. She showed me some of the less touristy parts of the thing, of her country. And eventually, after about 2 years, she took me to her home. Now, she was very poor, even by Dominican standards, meaning that she didn't have any major appliances, save a washing machine. She didn't have a refrigerator or a stove. So after staying there for 4 days and staying and saving money on a hotel, because I lived with her and I was out of the country, I bought her a stove. And I told the story on here just like that. And I got so much pushback. I was called trick and all kind of things, and and even got the nickname Stove Changer. I was like, would I have been a better man had I lived off of her, had her cook for me in the neighbor's stove, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And would I have been a better man if I had appreciated her submission, her kind? She's very nice, and everything else. And let's and put sex aside, would I have been a better man if I just left her the way I found her after everything that she's done? And there were attempts, not by all, but by many men, to shame me for that.
Wow.
Now, and on the other end, you have been called pick me, and it's a bad thing when they call you that. I'm reclaiming the word. If you ain't fucking pick me's, you ain't fucking shit. But but I mean, I reclaim the word. So you experience the same type of shame for being a natural woman that a lot of natural men experience just for being providers or protectors. Right. Like I ain't fighting over no bitch. Like, you gotta really pick your battles, absolutely. But if she's not a bitch, then you better fight for her. The fuck?
Yeah, it's crazy how we get degraded for reciprocation. Like right. You said, that woman was cooking for you. She gave you a place to stay. She was being submissive towards you, being a real lady towards you. And because you reciprocated back into her, you're somehow weak, you're inferior, you're a simp, you're a pushover, you're a doormat. I don't think that's fair. And again, I don't really give too many people too much oomph over me, if you will, that have that kind of mentality, because it's like, you're immature anyway. You're not fit or suited for this kind of conversation anyway. If you have that mentality to where if somebody is showing me respect as a man, as a woman, and me pouring back into them, you find that to be somehow weak, then, I mean, I don't even pay you any attention anyway. You're beneath me at that point. So
trust me, I don't. I don't. I laughed it off.
It is irritating, though. It absolutely is.
It's disturbing to know that mentality exists, and
right.
That being taught to children. It's like, you're discouraging young men and boys to be providers. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is a such thing as tricking, and
right.
But this is not that.
Right. And that's what I'm saying.
It's important for a man to know the difference. Don't conflate this with that.
Right. And it is pygmies. There are women out there who will bend over backwards for no good ass dudes.
Right.
And they wanna yes sir him to death. Like, yeah, that exists. And I feel like that's toxic. But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is people that are reciprocating, who are calling out the BS, that are holding ourselves accountable and each other accountable. We're the ones that are called the pick-me's. We're the ones that are called the simps, the pushovers, and I don't think that that's fair. Mm-hmm. So, like you said, it's alarming to you, because it's like, if that is the mentality of a lot of people, how can we bridge the gaps? How can we do better if either way, when people are reciprocating and doing what they need to do, and we want to give back into them, that's going to be somehow something that's negative. So right. it makes it the whole thing counterproductive. So we have to do something about that and say, no, that's not being a simp. That's being a man, damn it.
Right.
So,
And that's what my show is all about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what my show is all about, to encourage both men and women in that direction. And so is yours, from what I gather.
Absolutely.
All right. So let me bring up my notes. I brought up this picture because this should be the ultimate goal. At least it's mine. What you see on your screen there.
Beautiful. Beautiful Black family.
Exactly. All right. So moving on. One moment. I took my notes down so I could bring up that picture.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
All right. So, yeah, I discovered your channel actually a little while ago. So what I do is, because I have what I call a YouTube crush. Not really a, physical thing, even though there's physical attributes to it. But I have YouTube crushes in order to just give example of what I think an example of femininity is. So before, it was, I think her name was Janelle, and she lived in her van. I was like, oh wow, she's not following society's rules, and she lives in her van, and she does all this cool stuff. She lives by her own rules. So
Janelle?
Yeah, Janelle that lives in her van. She has like millions of subscribers.
Oh wow.
So she was my original YouTube crush, but then I had to let her go because she was real disrespectful to her father. So I was like, okay, this is not femininity. This is not what I want to represent as my YouTube crush. So, had to let her go. And then on the first video that you've seen of mine, yeah, the van girl, exactly. The first video that you've seen of mine, you were a prospective YouTube crush. It was labeled my potential YouTube crush. And I was like, okay, this woman exhibits the characteristics of femininity that a man should look for. And you do. But my current YouTube crush, you were beat out by this Black girl that does Irish dancing. Like, it was just something about how she just, says, F the sisterhood, F what everybody says. I know all forms of dance, and I could do hip hop dance, and I could do this, but something tells me to just do this Irish form of dance. And it was something about her that, yeah, so she's now the YouTube crush.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, but you were close. You were a close runner up.
Hey, I appreciate it.
All right.
I'm flattered.
All right. So next you talk about, let's see. So we did establish some relationship roles. Women don't understand that it takes a lot of wisdom, love, trust, and strength to be submissive. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I appreciate you, Ciclid. All right. So let's see.
No, I don't need a new stove.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, most of it is friendly pushback, but I mean, some of it is like, really? Is it that big of a deal? And,
Wow.
But, yeah. Okay. So men with issues finding submissive women. And yeah, I think that this is the most relatable chapter for men. Absolutely. Once again, pick up the book because it's very well written. Let's see. The social media boss chick. Yeah, it's very difficult to compete with that mentality. What I've noticed, and this is within my own personal dating life, I mean, because I look like I sound. Meaning, I'm a nerd in appearance, maybe not like genetic physical appearance, but in dress and things like that. So pretty much women know what I'm about when they see me, and they kind of change up their seduction techniques if they're interested in me, of course. What I've noticed is that even women who try to be submissive, like they're new to it, but they really want, the relationship that that they feel I can provide them. They want that, and they want it from me. They're new to it. They're like entry level submission when other cultures are on the, advanced calculus, they're on arithmetic, even though the heart's in the right place, just the training isn't there. What I've noticed is that the boss chick mentality is encouraged strongly by the family.
Yeah.
For example, I'm not a 50-50 man. So, generally they would stay at home while I work. And a lot of women become bored in this scenario. So they naturally gravitate towards female friends, relatives, acquaintances, and stuff like that for entertainment. And there's nothing wrong with that, depending on the women. And what I notice is that there is a lot of, you need to be a boss chick mentality that's constantly in their ear when they're at home alone and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that is definitely a thing. Is there something you wanted to add to that?
And that's why I feel like we have to be very careful as women who we surround ourselves with. And we have to be strong and solid within who we are as women. That way, when women do come along and they do have these ignorant opinions and stances, we'll be able to stand on our square and say, hey, I am doing this and I am doing that. Yeah, my man takes care of this and he takes care of that. But I do still have my own identity. I do contribute this. I do add this. And just kind of try to find your identity outside of just a career or a degree or a job. Like it's so much beautiful things to explore about yourself as a woman outside of what you can contribute to as far as being a boss chick, so that's unfortunate, but I bear witness to that. Women saying, well, you don't want to rely on no man to do all of this because what happened if he want to leave you and all of this negative energy. Like, I think as a woman, I would know how to choose a quality man to allow to take care of me. I'm not going to just choose any old body. That's a slap in the face and an insult to my judgment of character. So again, I just feel like we need to be very aware of and mindful of the women that we are associating ourselves with, because they could very well be jealous of our lifestyle. They would love to be at home. They would love to have a man take care of them, but they're going to tell you to be a boss chick so that you can rebel against your man and mess up what you have, but they would kill for what you have. So just be very careful, I would say.
Exactly. And many women don't have the strength that you do to, go against women that's been, because, let's face it, if she's naturally submissive, then these strong women or these boss chicks were who she submitted to prior to your arrival. So you're actually competing with them, even if you're not competing with, her domineering, her desire to be a dominant. You're competing. You're basically, there's two dominant forces in her life that are competing for her submission, and the other one isn't even male.
Right.
That's what I've noticed just dating and relationships in general in my own personal life. And I think a lot of men struggle with that, who seek submissive women. Let's see. There are women that don't desire a relationship when they are not in a dominant role. I agree with this statement. I think that this is just a matter of security. A dominant man can leave you. And according to television, they always do. According to every movie by, that begins with Medea. And, we talked about that. They always do. They always leave you for a white girl. Kanye West. That's not really the case. Grandpa didn't leave grandma for a white woman, and it wasn't for lack of opportunity. But we got to get out of that thinking. I think that, okay, so basically what I was saying to that comment is that, or that statement is that women think that their security in being in a dominant role, when really these relationships fail far too often. Okay. Let's see. They look for subpar men. Once again, a man that's not really capable of leaving. Men get comfortable in submissive positions. Absolutely. Absolutely. Men have gotten comfortable in submissive positions. The men get turned off and leave the women. This is where I'll get pushback. And this is just anecdotally. These men rarely leave. Rarely leave, because what they have is, once again, through this thinking, women have reduced themselves to sexual function and, as you stated, income. So basically, men look at the situation as, all I have to do is give the good wood and, and put some Clorox in the front door when she comes in the house, make it seem like I cleaned. Like that's how they see the situation. On the surface, it's a good deal, and maybe it is, because you are getting male privileges, quote unquote, without the burden of masculinity. So a lot of guys see that as a good deal. But what winds up happening is the women just get jaded by that. Like, they get tired of it. And these guys wind up going, couch to couch and couch to couch and couch to couch, just hoping for a woman who typically is less pretty than he is handsome. Almost always that's the case. He's going through these situations. And along the way, he's picking up a body count that he brags upon, but you're really, how can I say this? The behavior is so contra to masculinity that it's disturbing. And the women eventually pick up on that and they leave the guy, but they're still in the same position that they're in prior to that because they haven't read your book. So they just say, okay, there wasn't a problem with the process. There was a problem with this particular guy. I'm just going to find another guy to submit to me and appreciate the wealth that I bring, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the cycle repeats itself.
Right.
And the guy on the other hand says, okay, it didn't work out with this one. I'm going to find another woman who will feed me Lunchables and let me play Xbox. So I see this going on far too often. Your thoughts, please.
I can agree with that to a certain extent as well. It's different levels to all of this. But what I've seen though is men would get into these relationships to where they feel like, being in this more submissive role as a man, it works for me. Like you said, they like it. It's a privilege to be in that role. All I have to do is give you the D every now and again, put some Pine Sol or Clorox out, and then you're happy thinking that I'm actually contributing when I'm really not doing anything. But What I've seen though is that not only does the woman eventually get tired of that, because again, on a subconscious level, we're seeking masculine leadership type of men, but men, they began to start cheating on these more dominant women because that woman outside of the relationship, maybe she's not as better off as the woman that he's with. So he's going to view her as the more feminine role, the more docile role, and he's going to want to go with her because, again, that's feeding into his masculinity. So I see it happen twofold to where it's like men are okay with it and they want to, it essentially grants them the opportunity to be lazy and get by. But then after a while, that can wear on him because it's like, damn, I don't really have a voice. I'm not really contributing anything of real substance and value because, again, I feel as though men naturally, they want to be providers and they want to be masculine. They want to be leaders. So they'll start to seek that outside of that relationship because they're not able to display that or showcase that within their relationship.
Exactly. So
they may stay in that relationship, but a lot of them do cheat.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, once a woman reduces herself down to sexual function, and also the assumption that not one is greater than the other, meaning that, Megan Good, who's my, real life, I guess you would say, crush, like outside
Megan
of
is fine.
Yeah, she is, and has been for quite some time. So Megan Good's sexual value is far different than Lizzo's. It doesn't compare. But when you reduce a man to that, then you are far more likely to be cheated on. Not only is your only worth to him your sexual function, which every woman on the planet has. Every woman's sexual function is equal to yours. You've seduced this particular type of man, where submission is something that cannot be replicated as easily. It's easy to find a woman with another sexual function or whatnot, but you'll be hard pressed to swipe on Tinder and find something that's submissive to you. And also she will require you to behave in a masculine manner towards her, not just a sexual manner, meaning that you have responsibilities towards her that you cannot keep with more than one woman. Or it's very difficult for most men to do with more than one woman.
Right.
Can I take a quick break real quick? I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. So while she does that, let's see. I appreciate you, Bernard Riley. Appreciate you a lot. Let's see. Cichlid says, the Golden Eagle. Let me go back up and read that one. All right. Appreciate you, Cichlid. Let's see. He says, Miss dnieka Marie. I respect your message very much. Do you need a stove? Yeah, you're a funny dude, man. All right. Let's see. The Gold Eagle 99. I appreciate the $20 super chat. You says, ask her, can femininity be taught to a woman or is it natural? Also, is there a difference between femininity and submission? I can answer that the best I can. And of course she can, she can give her take on it if she has time when she comes back. Sorry, I wasn't reading all of them. I really just, she only has an hour, so I want to make the most of it. I want to get the whole review out. I only have 2 chapters to go. So my answer to that is submission is a subset of femininity. So basically, feminine women are, just kind of like all cars have tires, in order to be a functioning car, in order to be a, functioning feminine woman, you would have to be submissive or at least have the desire to be so. So someone asked a question, and you're better suited for this as a woman. She asked, can femininity be taught to women or is it natural? Also, is there any difference between femininity and submission? Now, I was giving my answer, but please, I think she'd prefer to hear yours.
Can you pull up the comment on the screen so I can see it?
Hopefully it's not away, but oh no, here it is. Okay.
Ask her, can femininity taught to women or is it natural? Also, is there a difference between femininity and submission? I believe femininity can be taught, but I also feel like it's something that should be innate, like within women to naturally be. For instance, if you're a mother and you have a daughter, you can teach your daughter how to possess certain feminine traits and qualities. But at the same time, all you're doing is bringing forth what's naturally within her anyway. You're just teaching her how to do it in an effective manner, in an effective way. And as far as femininity and submission, I feel like they are one and the same. To me, you can't be a feminine woman without practicing submission. To me, they kind of go hand in hand. So I'm not really going to say that it's a difference within those things because, again, that ties back into your femininity with being a submissive, nurturing, catering type of woman. Okay,
very well said. For men, I would liken it to the first part of the question. I would liken it to fighting. Though men are born with certain abilities, advantages that women don't possess in the same quantity, that can make you more capable of defending yourself and others, doesn't mean that you shouldn't go to the gym and, maybe take up some martial arts or boxing lessons and things like that. So though you have the natural ability, it can be enhanced. But
exactly. And it can go the same thing for women.
Exactly. So very, very well put. Okay, so I'll read this last one and then I'll do the last 2 chapters. I appreciate your time.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay. Snuggles 668 says, it would be nice if you let her talk more. Okay.
This is your show. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'll take the suggestion. A lot of people came here to see you, so.
No, we came here for you. You're the leader. I'm submitting to your show.
Okay. I appreciate you. However, this is a time and this is your book. So I'm going to ask your permission for the last 2 chapters. One is Bridging the Gap of Confusion. Now, I don't want to give away too much. However, if you allow me to read this first paragraph, I think that it will really entice people to read the rest of it. Okay. So there's many men and women that want or require certain things in a relationship, but fail to realize this balance and reciprocal element that I have mentioned, which does nothing but make them become even more bitter, angry, or discouraged when it comes to building solid relationships, or discouraged, excuse me. So many times I hear men say things like, I need a submissive woman that will listen to me and cater to me. All the while, he is not a provider, protector, leader, or nurturer in any capacity. Then there's those women that say, I need a man that can spoil me and take care of me. All the while, she is doing nothing that even remotely deserves such treatment. Beautifully written. I didn't want to misquote or get anything wrong in that. I mean, I didn't want to paraphrase or anything. That is so poignant. Like, you have these get the bag women, And, or, these guys who say, oh, women submit to me because I got game. Wait, what? It's the same thing, It's like, oh yeah, but I mean, when you look at me, lick my lips, look at me, lick my lips. Like, that's why she submits. It's like, oh wow, this is, and that's the state, unfortunately, in Black America, and you captured it well. Both sides are trying to hustle each other.
Right.
Like the women are trying to hustle men out the bag, and men are trying to hustle women out the vag. All without the men offering masculinity in exchange, and the women not offering femininity in exchange.
Absolutely.
The hustle mentality has become so common in the Black community that it's become a natural part of our family structure.
Right.
So
a lot of us, we want a lot without giving a lot. It doesn't work like that, especially in regards to a relationship. It can't be one-sided. It can't be one person catering to you and you offer nothing of value in return. And like you said, I see that from both men and women. It's like men want to be these bosses and they want to be submitted to. And it's like, bro, what am I submitting to though? What do you offer that woman to make her want to naturally fall in line in her natural role of submission? And a lot of them will say things, well, I got this dick. No,
exactly.
I got this swag. Okay, no, and the same thing for women. They want men to spoil them and take care of them and provide them with these luxurious and lavish lifestyles, but then they don't feel like they need to look a particular way. They don't feel like they need to treat a man a particular way. It's all about what he can offer and do for her. A lot of women get in the notion of feeling like, well, I am the table. Like, no, what do you bring to the table? I am the table. No, you're not. So it's that battle on both ends to where, like I said, we all have to come together and call it out on both ends and say, hey, bro, you need to offer this. Sis, you offer this. How can we bring it together and complement each other and not compete?
True. So, for the men, it does seem like it's working, and actually for the women too, because it is harder to find a certain type of guy than it is to find a guy who exchanges, a hustler, pretty much, a game guy. Let's say that. So on the surface, it may seem like it's working for the guy because you can be a guy that goes from one dysfunctional relationship to another doing this. However, if you stay true to if you ain't fucking pick-me's, you ain't fucking shit, then you're really not doing anything with yourself. You're just going around, trying to seduce a woman who's likely less pretty than you are handsome, because if you're offering your sexual function to her, then you would have to be the more sexual being. I'm speaking from the men's point of view. That's why I see so many lopsided relationships where the guy is more handsome than the woman is pretty. Like, an example would be Jeremy Meek's first wife. Apparently he's a guy that took a prison mugshot and became a model out of it. But the woman he was married to was overweight and looked like she was raised underneath a trailer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, these type of relationships exist because men are actually selling their sexual function to women. And that's what happens when you don't make masculinity a requirement. You're basically selling femininity to women. Unfortunately, but true. Okay. Which brings me to the brutal truth. Now, I'm going to ask your permission one more time. Or actually,
Feel free.
2 more times. I'm going to ask for something else after this. Okay.
That's fine.
All right. So the brutal truth. First paragraph, you got to buy the book for the rest. When I tell women things like, quote, you can very well get a man that loves you, respects you, takes care of you, and caters to you, but you'll have to be kind, loving, supportive, submissive to obtain that kind of man, end quote. Their mouths automatically scrunch up and their eyes roll into the back of their heads because they have not been told the truth. They have instead been lied to by other women that have not done, lost my place 1 second, by other women that have not done their own self-worth. and told that they can be kind, that they can be, what's that? Oh, clingy, independent, strong, dominant, and aggressive women, and get whatever man she so desires. This leads them to think that there is no self-work to be done, and women that think like me are dumb. And by me, she means herself, of course. Dumb, desperate, and foolish, when in all actuality, it is the women like them that are going to be forever searching for a man that does not want her.
I said what I said.
It's tragic. It's tragic but true. I mean, no, it is. It's tragic but true. So many women find themselves in this situation, and what I found is that when women come to a certain age, what she does is she encourages younger women to follow her old way of thinking, even though she's come to the realization that it's wrong. For example, a 30-year-old man would gravitate to a 20-year-old woman more than he would a 40-year-old woman, even though the difference in ages are equal. That's just the nature of men. We're attracted to fertility. And a 40-year-old woman would know this, and she would sabotage the 20-year-old woman deliberately, even if it's her own daughter, in order to have less competition in the sexual marketplace.
Wow.
That is a pattern of behavior that I've seen far too often, like far too often.
Wow.
In our community. And remember, we're generations into this. This started with, I would say it started in the 80s, so to speak. I mean, it started really in the 60s, but it really, like, the 80s was the first generation where you've seen it to take hold. So that's where we're at right now. And, as you stated, and that's the pushback that you get when you tell a woman that you can get these qualities in a man. All you have to do is submit, because it runs so counter to everything that they have read and heard and seen in a movie or heard in a song before, or heard on a YouTube channel before. It runs in complete contradiction. So, but you have receipts on your left hand finger between your middle finger and your pinky. You have receipts, and the woman that tells you in the opposite direction, they generally don't, or if they do, it's just for show, so they can have validity in such statements. And it's the fleeting relationships that you described also in your book. Right.
We can't be the kings, and we can't be independent. We can't be strong and dominant and aggressive and expect to get the type of man that we are trying to get. You'll never get him. That type of man that is going to be the provider, the protector, the nurturer, the leader, the teacher, he's not checking for a woman that is going to possess those very masculine, aggressive, I don't need you traits. So what I'm trying to tell women is, hey, you can very well get a man that can spoil you and take care of you and do all these great things that you're looking for in a man. But you have to change this first. When you say that, it's like, oh, you on that pick me shit. Oh, here she go. Here goes pick me shit. And it's like, no, you're trying to essentially get picked, right? So, I mean, I'm trying to tell you what to do to get picked by the same type of man that you are seeking. But going along and down that road of feeling like you have to be the kingly, aggressive, masculine, independent, dominant type of woman, you're not going to ever get him. So, it's one of those things where you try to help your sister, but she doesn't want to be helped because she feels like she doesn't want to come off as the lesser, I guess, sex or play the lesser position. But it's so much power and beauty in submission that women have no idea.
And as you say in your book, they were never shown. They were never shown the results. I mean, at least I seen it, when we celebrate grandma's, what is she coming on 90? When we celebrate her birthday, and like everything that she has worked hard for is there, her children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and all that good stuff. So yeah, I mean, there is a beauty to it. And she's able to show it off to the women who didn't submit every time she goes to bingo on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Like, this is my grandson. Take a look at my grandson, she could really just stun on him,
Exactly.
Yeah. I wanted to know. So Steve Harvey, he did a book on a concept, think like a man, act like a woman, which is utterly ridiculous. I mean, like, who wants a woman that's just acting like a woman, but she actually has the mind of a man? I think the notion is so ridiculous, and yeah, and it just included passages on how to attempt to leverage power from a man, whether you're using sex or other tactics. These are just tactics of power in a relationship, which means that he views relationships as a power struggle, and he should. He's been in 4 marriages. So he reviews relationships as a power struggle, and it's to teach them how to win the power struggle, and men should read it so they can have their playbook. It's an utterly ridiculous concept, but it was a conceptual book nonetheless, which was made into a movie. Now, do you think that, or have you considered maybe taking this book? It's a great book, by the way. You should definitely read it, and putting it into novel form, putting it into story form.
A story?
Yeah, like example, give a relationship, like in the movie, Think Like a Man, Act Like a Woman. I think that was the name of the movie. I watched it because Megan Good was in it, but
I very well could. Who knows what the future holds? But really, I just want people to get the book so that they can get a general idea of what healthy relationships are supposed to be and entail and embody, and not think that submission is this, boogeyman, or think for men, think that submission is something that's going to be automatically granted to you just because you are a man. Like, no, I want to give both sides of the spectrum an idea of what roles and positions and characteristics and traits one is supposed to embody. That way we can collaborate effectively, but it could work as far as putting into a movie too, because maybe people are more visual. People like to be entertained. Right. Maybe they'll get the message better that way, but who knows? But really, I just need everybody to get the book. I made it short, simple, easy of a read, straight to the point. Like, just get the book. Okay, let's get the book. Let's build upon our relationships and do better.
Okay. Okay, definitely. And now on the get the book thing, I have actually by mistake purchased 2 books. So one of them took a long time coming in the mail. I was like, oh, maybe they didn't get my order. And then I just ordered another one. So I have an extra copy.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So to those of you who have sent either Cash Apps or Super Chats, you're eligible for a raffle for the other copy of the book. Email me with your name. And if you sent the Cash App or Super Chat, you will be entered into the raffle. And I will send you a copy of her book with your permission. I know you don't want, you might not want me giving away the material. With your permission, I would like to do that. But if not, it's fine.
You bought that book. You do what you want to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, War Master, I see you. I appreciate you. And everybody else. So if you sent the Cash App and Super Chat or Super Chat during this stream, then hit me up on an email and you'll be entered into a raffle up until this point, of course. So so that's my review. It's a great book. It's a great read. I think I read it in maybe like an hour, and then I outlined it so I could do this and reread it. It's very on point, and I found myself several times because I was gonna do a review on it. I'm like, okay, what can I critique? So I would list things to the first time I read it. I would list things to critique that was later covered in a later portion of the book. I was like, oh, well, let me scratch that out. Like, so I was like, but she's not covering the influence. She's not covering why the women are like that. And it's like, oh, there it is. Or she's not covering the men, and how they're attracting the wrong men. Like, oh, there it is. So I found myself, just doing that, and then I was really left with, very few things to criticize. And people, my regular subscribers, they know that I'm brutal. I'm brutal on movies. I'm brutal on pretty much all of my reviews. Are really, really brutal. But I mean,
I'm glad I passed the cut.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had people leave. I had a lot of great reviews on the book. Don't get me wrong, but I had a few people critique the book saying that it was too short and it cost too much money, and they didn't like the font, how it was too big, and I'm just like, they have to find something wrong. But I'm like, at the end of the day, it's good information that you can apply. Who cares that it only took you 30 minutes to read it? More time for you to do things that you need to be doing in your life, you know, but they have to find something wrong. But it is a great book, and everybody, I feel like, could benefit from the information that's inside of it, you know.
Well, the thing is, and I don't know if this was conscious or subconscious, but you're basically telling women to be the natural selves, and they really already know it. They just need encouragement. Like they just need to hear it. They just need to read it. They just need to just have it put into words, and it doesn't really take that many words to put into. They're picking up the book knowing that something is wrong. You know, let's be clear. They're not picking up the book because they're still in the sisterhood. They're picking up the book because what society told them works is not working and has not worked for quite some time. So they're looking to change it up, but they've also been told that submission is the enemy. That something that weak women do, you know, or that ugly women do, or something like that. By the way, you're not ugly, you know.
Thank you.
You wouldn't have been on my crush list if you were ugly. Yeah. So no, that's definitely not the case. But in fact, I noticed some of the more domineering women, you know, like Lonnie Love, Oprah, things like, they tend to be, you know, not America's standard of beauty or any country on earth's standard of beauty. So yeah. But anyway, basically you're just telling them what they naturally know, and you're putting into words that they're understanding.
Right.
You know, and I mean, I can make it's a really short read if you was to just say, hey, what they taught you was bullshit, follow your instincts. Like, I mean, it shouldn't take like a lot to say that. I mean,
right. And I didn't want to start regurgitating the same things over and make it a 200-page book, and then it's just a bunch of repetitive bullshit. You know, so I didn't understand that complaint of, oh, it was too short. It cost too much money. It was $14, and I had it on sale for $5 for a whole month and a half. So it's not like, I mean, I didn't get it, but people want to critique everything. But, you know, I don't like you said, it doesn't take a whole encyclopedia worth of pages to say what is just naturally should be within you to do. You know, I'm gonna keep it quick and concise so you can internalize it and do what you need to do. We want healthy relationships, right? Cool. I put it in the book format that's quick and easy to read so that you can do exactly that. And what is this queen she says, I'm just curious. Ask dnieka, does she think lovemaking is more enjoyable by men with a submissive woman? I feel like that is subjective. It depends. Like I said, it's a time and a place. Sex can be enjoyable whether you're in that dominant role as a woman or that submissive role. That depends on what kind of mood you are in or what kind of mood your man is in. And you guys kind of like, it's a dance in that way. Sex could be a dance in that way. Love making could be a dance in that way. So it just really depends. I wouldn't say you should always be submissive in the bedroom or you should always be dominant. It really depends on your taste. Me personally, you know, I like to be dominated, you know, but I can take on that role too. So it just really depends on what mood you're going for. I hope that wasn't TMI, but I like to be a little bit candid and open with my audience, with my people. So.
All right. Well, I mean, switches are often submissive. I mean, and even when they're put in a dominant position, they're doing it at the behest of their lover, meaning that
exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I get that. Yeah. So I want to answer your question too, because you're asking, you know, is it more enjoyable for men? And the answer to that question is, if you ain't fucking pick-me's, you ain't fucking shit. Trust me, I've been with both. Once again, if you ain't fucking pick-me's, you ain't fucking shit. All right.
Whoa.
All right. So, Game Changer, you are ingenious with how you handled this conversation. Very informative and strategically done. I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. You're new to the channel. I appreciate you a lot. All right. So, and yeah, that's it. Now, do you have any questions for me or my audience or anything like that?
Do you, let me ask this. What is something that you felt like could have been covered a little bit more thoroughly or in detail about the book?
Well, I think that it was very well covered, but you can only do so much in just explaining, because basically it's a conversation, and it's a conversation that needs to be had, and it's a concept that needs to be explored. What I would like to see, and this is just a request, but I would be your first customer where I would see this, is a novel, showing functional and dysfunctional relationships. And I'm pretty sure that a woman will seek the functional relationships and relate to the dysfunctional ones. I would like for them to say, like, oh, this is where I went wrong. This is where I went wrong. Why was I yelling at him for not folding the dish rag? Not folding the dish rag and putting it on the sink. I actually had a woman tell me, I kid you not, right? And like I say, I'm not a 50-50 guy. So she said, I've been looking and you haven't washed your dishes in 3 days. I was like, you've been looking at unwashed dishes for 3 days?
I couldn't even let it sit that long.
Exactly. I was, we didn't have many dishes, but I was like, you're looking just to later make a complaint. So she obviously was conditioned in the wrong way. Like stuff like that, and trust me, you talk to any single guy or any unmarried guy, he will have like a ton of material to give you. And if you, look into your personal life and things like that, you have a ton of material for, a functional relationship, or just, previous generations and things like that. You can interview my grandma. And you could, I think it would make a good novel, because I think that people are looking for just more substance.
Okay.
Like, oh, I can relate to dnieka's depiction of Keisha, and how she just kept going from guy to guy looking for someone that's impressed by her income, even though she was attracted to the guys and intimidated by. Actually, that's one other thing that I think should be covered. I do notice that there is some intimidation by a lot of Black women who about guys. They're actually intimidated by guys who possess the qualities that you talked about of masculinity. And that's because the thinking is that they're eventually going to leave.
Right.
Yeah. Or actually, and I've been, I've been flat out told that, and I obviously equate this to intimidation and also a vetting process, but really intimidation. Because I do okay. I went to university, I'm a STEM guy. I do okay in life, and a lot of the women who are kind of like in the middle, they're receptionists or, something like that. They have jobs that, because they're indoors, they may be impressive to some men, but less impressive to other men. It'll be they could use their income to impress a guy who makes less, but it doesn't do anything for a guy who makes more. It doesn't. So kind of like if you're a CNA, you're not really impressing a doctor, but you are impressing, other guys,
right.
or some other guys. So with that being said, I noticed that there is some, well, I'll put it like this. Many of them have flat out told me that you look like you only date white girls.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my response. I was like, what does that look like? Because as I mentioned, I grew up in Oakland, and I'd say like maybe 85 to 90% of the women I've been with were Black girls. And the one I'm with now, she's not American, but she's African. So like, what even makes you think that? You know,
right. And that's not the first time I've heard that. I've heard other guys that maybe are very articulate. They carry themselves in a certain way. You know, they've been complaining and making posts like, yeah, why does black women always say, well, I didn't think that you would be the type to date black women. I'm just like, what kind of BS is that to say? Because he carries himself in a presentable manner, like that's an insult to you as a black woman to say that kind of man that has this, that, and the third, or speaks this way, or, you know, carries himself this way, you know, would be better suited for somebody outside of his race. Because to me, that speaks to you and your insecurity as a black woman, feeling like he would be essentially too good for you, too good to date somebody like you, you know. And so that's cringeworthy when I hear black women say things like, well, I would think that you would date I don't see you dating black women. You know, I don't know how to take that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's happened to me, you know, in higher frequencies in certain parts of, you know, certain stages of my life than others. But, you know, it's happened so many times that I've lost the cringe effect of it. And I started to see through it. It's like, okay, this is their way of saying, would I date a woman like her? She wants her behavior type validated. And, you know, once again, I don't really care, you know, like I know you get pushback for tattoos and stuff like that. I don't really care about an appearance on the appearance of, you know, the quote unquote stereotypical Keisha. You know, if a woman is submissive, then, you know, and she's feminine, then, you know, once again, that's what I go for. And that comes in, you know, a variety of different packages. Right. As long as the package is small.
What is this comment? What is the young lady's thoughts on renting women? Is it cheaper that way? Renting women? I didn't know we could be rented. I didn't know we were property like that. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So are you talking about like a prostitute or a sugar baby or something like that? I mean, I'll answer that the best I can. I know he's asking your opinion, but it's the question is kind of difficult to answer. If you're talking about prostitution, okay, it makes sense for the question to be asked because so many women have reduced themselves to sexual functions. So why wouldn't a guy just pay for the sexual function and avoid, you know, child support and alimony or everything else that comes with, you know, with that? So I get it. However, there are other functions that women, particularly pygmies, provide that a prostitute simply don't. So, you know,
I mean, again, I feel like that question would have to be turned and redirected towards what type of women are you choosing to involve yourself with? It may be cheaper if you're dealing with a certain type of woman. Yeah, it may be cheaper to just string her along and not commit to her, and you know. But if you're looking for a woman of quality, of substance, of value, you know, keeping her on your team, you know, buying her, I guess, so to speak, and keeping her around, that would add value to your life. She would essentially become an asset. So, I mean, it just depends on the type of woman that you're entertaining, I would say, with that question. But again, I don't like the context of it because it makes it seem like women are like these products, you know, these items. Mm-hmm. I don't like the context of it, but I can understand it. Again, it goes back to the quality of that woman.
Exactly. So I want to show you a picture, and this is a picture that I took personally. So this is something that happened in real life, not altered or anything, that I found very disturbing because I've been this way for, you know, my life. Well, you know, like as I mentioned, that men are naturally this way. Hold on one moment. Make sure I get the right screen. And okay, so screen 30. All right. Let me remove that. Okay, so could you tell me what's wrong with this picture?
Yeah, they have the Caucasian young girl in this more prissy, submissive, girly type of role, and then they have the African American or the Black young lady as the career professional, and she's a boss. That's what I see.
Exactly. You know? Exactly. Very well put. That's what I see too. And unfortunately, that's with so many young ladies. see. They see a white woman's value as innate. She didn't have to do anything to become a princess other than being born white. And where the black woman's value, she actually has to be something. She actually has to be a doctor. She has to do that. She has to go to school, get the education, and get this, and because you're not innately valued for your femininity. You're valued for being a doctor.
And that's playing on the subconscious mind of our younger little girls out here. They're seeing that, hey, I need to be a doctor and I need to do that, which is great and beautiful things to aspire to be. But again, when it comes to the Caucasians or the white little girls, they're not taught that. They're taught to be wives and mothers, and they're taught to, look for Prince Charming and cater to men and fall in love, so it's one of those double-edged swords where it's like, yeah, you can aspire to be different things and have your own career and find your own identity, but at the same time, it's not teaching us the other side of being a woman, which is being a wife and being a woman and being submissive and, just following in your natural femininity. That's something that they don't showcase a lot as it pertains to women of color, more specifically Black women.
Exactly. Now, I also want to ask, how did you, because I would call it the matrix, but the illusion or whatever you want to call it, the years of indoctrination, like, you're younger. I'm in my early 40s. You're younger, you're intelligent and everything like that, but you've lived in the world. You've seen images like this, and you've seen Good Times, Jefferson's, everything, set it off. You've seen all the propaganda, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
How did you escape it? Was it finding your current husband that just kind of brought you out of that mindset, or was it?
Yeah, for the most part, and I did have an advantage because I was raised by my father.
Okay.
My mother, she was in and out of the picture. Mm-hmm. So I was predominantly raised by my father up until I was 14, 15. And so I got to understand how a man is supposed to regard women and how a woman is supposed to regard, a man. I had a stepmother. I saw their dynamic. Wasn't entirely healthy, looking back, but as a child, they didn't really showcase those things to us. So I was able to see a family structure of how a man is supposed to be, what he's supposed to do. And I can respect that. But again, I'm still in the matrix and I do see certain things. I am involved in certain things. And so I did adapt certain toxic, qualities and characteristics that I had to get checked on, when I met my husband, like, hey, that can't roll, that can't ride. So I would say that my husband kind of inspired me or pushed me or motivated me to kind of wake up within that matrix, because he was raised by a father and a mother that were happily married, still married to this day, for all of his life, so he was able to teach me certain things as far as how a man is supposed to be and how a woman is supposed to be, and kind of get me out of that warped mentality of being that strong, independent. I don't need a man. I can do it by myself. I can be disrespectful. I can be dominant. I can be powerful and overpower you and overtalk you and talk to you how I want to. He kind of checked me on that. So again, it goes back to a man being able to be in his masculine, be in his authoritative role, be in his leadership role, and teach women better. That's why I hold men to a higher regard, because you guys are the leaders. Mm-hmm. And so when you guys put your foot down and you do things the way it needs to be done, women will fall in line, eventually anyway, So that's kind of what happened with me. I came across a good, strong, masculine, alpha, intelligent Black man that steered me in the right direction, which built upon the foundation that my father kind of already built. But I did kind of get lost, in translation after that, but he kind of brought me back into reality.
Okay. Fair enough. When will your husband's book, How to Check a Woman Out of This Mentality, be released? I will also be looking forward to reading that.
You know what? I always try to get my husband to come on my live streams to talk about relationships. But he just never does. He's like, that is not my thing. I just know how to run my household and my castle. As far as the other stuff, I don't know. But we'll see. I'll bring it up to him.
Okay. He has a willing audience, I'm sure. All right, because he has answered the $1 billion question. All right. Someone says all praise is due to your dad.
Absolutely.
To which I agree. All right. Something went wrong. I was trying to do a screen share. Okay, so remember when I was talking to you about the sisterhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the sisterhood is basically a network of women who are teaching, Black women the wrong way. This was born from a scarcity mindset of men, and it has been going on for about 130 years now. Mm-hmm. They have regular meetings, and they have a scroll that I was able to infiltrate and retrieve from them. So I have a digital copy of it right here. I want you to tell me if this sounds like anything you've heard in your upbringing. Okay, so from the Scrolls of the Sisterhood, these are their bylaws. So don't speak against the sisterhood or the sisters in it, meaning that they will never speak against one another publicly. I noticed this mentality. Okay. All success of the Black community is due to the Black woman. All failures of the Black community is due to white supremacy or Black men, depending on the circumstances.
Wow.
Champion the individual success of Black women every chance you get. Passively highlight the failures of Black men every chance you get.
Oh, God.
Have you experienced these? Okay. Discourage economic success in Black men and boys at all costs. Tell them that success is a white thing. Make success seem unsexy for Black men. Make failure seem appealing.
Is this this is trolling, right?
This is the scroll that I have personally obtained from the sisterhood.
Don't play with me.
I had to infiltrate. I had to infiltrate. I pretended to be a panderer, a simp, a male feminist. And after 5 years, I obtained it. I told the story on my show. Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
It is. I mean, I actually had to decrypt it. But yeah. Encourage success in Black girls and young ladies at all costs. Damage the image and reputation of Black men. Image and reputation of Black men and boys whenever possible. Discourage interracial and intercultural relationships of Black men at all costs. Never publicly show desire to date interracially unless first highlighting faults in Black men. The Black single career mother is the top of the sisterhood social hierarchy. The submissive Black woman is the mortal enemy of the sisterhood. Read you. Maneuver to assure Black men and boys have no alliances other than Black women. Maneuver to assure Black women and girls are allied with everyone but Black men, i.e. welfare, things like that.
This is not real.
This is it was written the day after slavery. It's very real.
No, I don't. This has to be trolling. I don't think anybody in their right mind would say all of this.
This is what women in the sisterhood tell each other. Just like you say in your book, when they tell you that, submission is outdated, degrading, unnecessary, belittling. This is where this is the mindset that they're coming from. And let's see. Black men with mating and dating and relating standards is blasphemy and should be silenced and shamed by any means necessary. Categorize all attacks against the sisterhood as sexism or racism. Withhold femininity from Black men at all costs.
Wow.
Let's see. Your children can be used as hostages if and only if you love them less than the enemy. Read child support, things like that. The Black community can be used as hostage if and only if you use them. You love, it means to say it less than Black men. And yeah, okay, so that's it. So you haven't experienced women who appear to have read from these scrolls in your life?
No, I'm not saying I don't see things that could correlate with that scroll, but that scroll looks like it's a little bit too much. I don't know if Black women or women in general have come together and contrived that scroll of or list of things to abide by as rules and regulations like that. I feel like it's a little far-fetched, but it does have validity to what it said on those scrolls as far as Black women do. A lot of us, not all, they do condemn the success of Black men and tear them down and talk bad about them. And they don't want to hold themselves accountable and call out the things that need to be addressed on our ends as far as our roles in certain things that happen to us. You know, it's always somebody else's fault versus us taking accountability and doing better. If we can't call each other out as far as what is going wrong amongst us, how can we improve? How can we get better? How can we become better versions of ourselves if it's a sin and a crying shame to call a woman out and tell her what she's doing wrong? I don't agree with that, but I do see that a lot of times. It's like it's a lot of hypocrisy as far as women being able to do this, but then if a man does the same thing, call him out, bash him, slander him, shit on him, you know. But when it comes to you doing it, the exact same thing, then it's okay. We don't say anything. And a woman that does say something, she's out the sisterhood. She's kicked out. She's a pygmy. Mm-hmm. So again, it's just, I do see it, but that scroll was a little bit too much for me. Okay, it's just.
Well, I don't think that you were invited to the sisterhood. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think that you were tapped on the shoulder and asked to join the sisterhood, and that's probably why it doesn't exist. It's a secret society. I mean, you know,
I actually was though.
Oh, you were.
I've had women come to me and say, "Hey, you are beautiful. You're very influential. You need to come to the other side and level up with us and leave these broke dusties alone." Now, I have been approached. I just did not accept. So, I mean, I can't get with that type of time, that type of energy. It doesn't sit well within me. I've had women approach me telling me that, hey, you have a big platform. You're beautiful. You know, you could just change this and tweak this and change this and tweak that. You can come over and join us. But as far as caping for these Black men and caping for these men and being a pick-me, you have to stop that. You know, I've been approached. I just did not, like I said, accept. But you know,
and if you've accepted, you would have found out about the sisterhood. They would have showed you. I got the originals, but they would have showed you the copies of the.
You're serious about that scroll?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I got the originals like 2010. Wow. So yeah, they've been making copies ever since. But you would have been inducted into the sisterhood had you accepted their invitation. Because that's what they want to do. They read your book and they want to turn you into Alice Walker or whatever. But
unfortunate.
You said something interesting about dusties and a lot of other pejoratives that they have for Black men, which I understand because we have ours for, and which shows that there's dysfunction on both sides. I get it. Would you say that some women will see that as an indictment on the women? Because you did say that submission unlocks the masculinity in a man. Mm-hmm. Perhaps it's dormant in so many men that are being called dusty, that you know that they wouldn't be dusty were they submissive. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
For example, there's quality of life in my field. I'll just stick with myself. There's quality of life jobs, and then there are work your butt off jobs. I work in software. So, you know, if there is a, say, video game company that's like, you know, look, you know, we're going to pay you X amount, but you're going to have to do 80-hour weeks because we need deadlines and the movie isn't going to stop because your kids have a birthday party or something like that. You know, it's going to be hard work. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be grueling and, you know, it's going to be taxing, but it pays a little bit more. Versus another job, which is like, okay, you know, you work for a government agency and you're pretty much just sitting around all day. And if somebody has a problem, you know, you fix it, you know, and you only get a problem maybe twice a week. So, you know, there's a lot of downtime and it doesn't pay as much. Now, a guy with a submissive woman that he wants to support and sustain and keep happy, as well as secure the future of our kids, is going to go for job A. He's going to sacrifice his personal comfort for his family, and a woman who looks to him for provisions and protections. That comes first and foremost. Where a guy who's not as involved, don't really care as much. He doesn't have the same responsibility. He would take job B simply because it's like, okay, I'm only paying 50% anyway. So, why not just have more time and stuff like that to give to, my woman. Mm-hmm. So I see that happening in the Black community far too often. Where other communities, because my major was computer science, so there was a lot of foreigners, both African and Indian, primarily, that come in with different cultures. And because a submissive woman is all but secured for them, and they know that they have to work for it. They're not going to get it by playing video games. They're going to get it by making video games. They understand that, and they put that to their work. They're less focused on, the parties, the fraternity parties, the sorority parties, and things like that. And they're more focused on their task because they know that this is the path to true happiness. I think absent that, yes, we do find ourselves with a lot of dusties, but it's a problem that can be solved not by through submission. Would you? That was really long-winded, but what is your take on that?
So are you essentially saying that women being submissive to men won't fix their driving motivation?
Well, according to your book, you were saying that, I think it was the second chapter. Let me see. When a man feels as though his woman respects, honors, and obliges to him, this creates a deeper and more loving connection that he has for his woman. This plays into his masculinity and gives him more sense of responsibility. Because he knows that he has a woman that trusts him and that is relying on him to make the right judgment calls. Right. So I'm saying that if a guy is absent that, then it may be a result of he's absent a woman that respects, honor, and obliges him.
Got you. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I do think that we do have a lot of men who are absent. Let's see, more of a sense of responsibility. A lot of Black men are into instant gratification. Let's see, and that's largely because he doesn't know that he has a woman that trusts him and that is relying on him to make the right decision. He doesn't. He has a partner. If he has anything at all, he has a partner who has equal stake in it. So she's right. So I do think it is affecting the quality of men that are available overall in the pool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this isn't me protecting dusties, because as I mentioned before, or what has been called dusties, because as I mentioned before, you should be yourself regardless.
Right. As a man, you know what a man's supposed to do.
Right. Exactly. Just like your husband did before you came along. Right. He didn't wait for you to submit before he.
Exactly.
So yeah, I see both ways.
It can go both ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very chicken and egg.
Yeah.
So, and that's why you got to have the book, and you got to keep it on hand. So when something like that comes up, you'll be able to say, actually, according to this passage here, this is what dnieka is talking about. Listen to dnieka. This is what she's talking about. So yeah, that's and that's deep. That's deep. All right. So I have to say that you and Jessica that was a great show. That was epic. Watching the two of you interact, the Pygmy Palace, that was spectacular. And just a suggestion, if you're thinking about doing a voice, or if you're looking for a voice for the audiobook version of Submission is Not the Enemy, people tend to gravitate towards soft British tones.
Jessica, I might have a job for you.
just a suggestion. But so you've been in this space for a little bit, and of course you've gotten a lot of pushback from the ladies and the fellas. And from what I understand from watching you, because I just was introduced to you maybe a month ago.
Oh, wow.
Has it ramped up recently?
As far as the pushback?
Yeah,
absolutely. People are, I feel like they're a little bit intimidated by me and my rapid growth. It's like, who is this? Who is this woman coming into our space, talking, how she's talking and doing what she's doing? And men, I feel a way because they're like, well, she's a woman. There's no way a woman should be able to come into a man's space and talk to men about men. And then you have women that's like, well, she's going against everything that I'm saying. And so she's kind of going to interfere with what my stance and my position is. So I get it from both ends. But honestly, I didn't plan on being in anybody's space. These spaces came to me based upon me, being my authentic self and speaking on things that I felt were, of benefit for us all to talk about and hear about. But yeah, it's definitely ramped up. But it's nothing that I'm not used to because, I started doing this and speaking how I speak all the way back in 2014, 2015. I started off on Facebook and I got attacked, for, I guess holding women accountable over there, but then I came over to YouTube and now it's a whole new space to where men feel like, hey, you don't have a place over here either. And then women over here saying, well, you're going to get to what we're talking about. And honestly, I just don't care. Like, I'm going to be me. Like you said, I'm not going to change based upon somebody not liking me or, not accepting me. I'm going to always be authentically me and true to myself, whether you like it or not. And whoever gravitates is going to gravitate towards it. But, it has picked up a lot of momentum, I guess, because I've picked up a lot of momentum and people are just kind of like trying to scope me out and see if I'm really about what I say I'm about. And I am, and they know it. And so it is what it is, whether they want to accept me or not. None of my concern. I accept me. And I know that what I speak on needs to be spoken upon. And I'm going to continue to do it regardless.
Okay. And I am happy that your channels, become very successful, primarily because it means that women are starting to see the failures of the sisterhood. They're like they know that this isn't working, that what we are doing hasn't worked. And I've seen it amongst my own female friends and but primarily family members. I've seen it. There isn't a reason why an intelligent young lady and attractive young lady in her 20s would be single in a healthy, functioning society. However, a lot of my younger cousins come across men who are not used to the burdens of masculinity. And make no mistake, fellas, it is a burden. No matter how you put it. It is a burden, and not every woman is worthy of that burden, but it is a burden. People see it as a privilege, or maybe you're thinking something sexual about sexual benefits or something like that, and I'm pretty sure that that's a benefit, but it's a burden. It's a responsibility. You can't have power or authority without responsibility. And in order to prepare for power or an authority, you need discipline. You just have to. You can't have these things independent of each other. A lot, and what my female family members have found is that a lot of men their age aren't really prepared for that, and many weren't taught to be prepared for it. They were taught to, cohabitate and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that if you tell a young man, many young men now that there's going to come a time in your life, not immediately, but there's going to come a time in your life where, not only if you don't work, you don't eat. If you don't work, many people that depend on you don't eat either, and that may scare a few of them. So I forgot where I was going with that. I really did, but
great points nonetheless, though.
Yeah. Thank you. But there are a lot of, that's where I was going with it. So a lot of women are not content with the current situation. I think that they're gravitating towards your page to look for the men who are prepared. And I think that once the women go in that direction, the men will have no choice but to follow suit. Yeah. That's where I was going with that. So yeah, your page and pages like Jessica X's and, you know, and all of the other men, I'm not disregarding the men, you know, by any means, but I think that, you know, pages like yours and hers and others are a godsend for women who are looking for that particular direction, you know, and the fact that the two of you are young, you know, I mean, you don't have to say your age. Jessica's 25 and you know,
I'll be 30 in February 1st. February 1st.
Exactly. So, you know, you're both in your 20s and you realize that at a very young age, and, you know, it's growing. It's growing. Young ladies want to see it work. You know, they had 2 generations to see that the old way, that the scrolls, that the sisterhood didn't work. You know, you know, Oprah is not happily married or anything like that. You know, I mean, Alice Walker's not. These women did not win in the game. They didn't. You know who did? My grandma.
Right.
You know,
we go back to those times, and I'm very happy for you to have me on your show because again, it spreads awareness. It gives more people exposure to us trying to bridge the gaps together and just bring it back to what it needs to be. It needs to be more men and women able to collaborate effectively and call things out and make the proper adjustments. And so I gotta go. But I just wanted to make sure that I gave you your roses and told you thank you. You know, I don't look at you guys like you're just small fish in a pond for me, and I'm just this big entity by myself, and y'all are beneath me. It takes a village, so I'm gonna come to platforms like yours. I don't care how big or small it is. I don't care if you show your face or you don't. If you're talking about things that need to be addressed and talked about, I'm going to come over and we're going to build, because that's the only way it can work. It's the only way that we can have real change is if we do say, okay, well, let's go and talk. But a lot of people are not doing that because they're not coming from a genuine place. They don't care to build. It's all about the money. It's all about the notoriety. It's not really about gaining a true understanding. So I do want to say thank you for having me on. Thank you for getting my book. Thank you for, you know, your positive feedback from the book, your criticisms and critiques. I appreciate it all. And it's only going to help us all to grow together. So thank you for having me on, and thank you for not being like these other men out here that's like, why is this bitch over here in the manosphere? She ain't supposed to be. I didn't ask to be in the manosphere. Y'all came to me. I'm just talking. Okay. So I appreciate you for being so welcoming, and thank you so much.
Oh, and thank you, dnieka. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay. So once again, the book is called Submission is Not the Enemy. It is a key factor to a healthy relationship. If you want a free copy and you have sent a Cash App or Super Chat, go ahead and email me at GameChanger001 at 00100 at gmail.com, and I will put you in a raffle. I'll do that online, and mail you my extra copy of the book.
Thank you so much. That's so dope of you to do that.
Oh yeah, no problem. And thanks once again for coming. I greatly appreciate you. I don't want to keep you. I know you got to get your husband a sandwich.
Yeah, I gotta make a sandwich. I literally do. I'm not even exaggerating. My husband just came home, so I have to make him some food before he heads back out. So.
Okay. You have a nice day. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys.
Peace. All right. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody. So to keep the interview portion independent, I'm going to take a page out of Zero's book and have a follow-up stream. So stay tuned. That will be separate from this one. So once again, I'm going to have a backup stream right now. I'm going to close this one down. At least for this one, I'd like to thank the managers and moderators. I would like to thank the Cash Apps and Super Chats. I'd like to thank those who are ghost listening and those who are who participate in the chat. Once again, this is GameChanger00100. Check me on the next stream in about 30 seconds, and peace.